Namaste, everyone. Christian Long, life enhancement consultant, giving a big and beautiful shout out on this transformation Q&A Thursday, where you come, you ask your questions, and you get answers that you can't even find on Google, and you put them into your life to practically transform you day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, lifetime in, lifetime out. So let's invoke to start off properly. Place your hands on your heart. Be aware of the love in your heart. Feel the sweetness, tenderness, joy within the heart. Be aware of the crown. Again, the crown is the entry point for spiritual energy from God, the great ones, your spiritual teacher and your higher self. Feel the expansion of the crown. And be aware of the heart and the crown together, magnifying and amplifying one another's energies of love. Love of God, love of all. To the Supreme God, Divine Father, Divine Mother, respected and beloved teacher, Grandmaster Cho Koksui, to his teacher, Lord Bodhisattva Meiling, to Lord Buddha Kuan Yin, to Sarasvati, the goddess of wisdom, to all the holy gurus, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, to the angels of awareness, understanding, inner transformation, self-honesty, and humility, to our divine selves, our higher souls, we humbly invoke for your divine light, love, and power, for your help, guidance, and protection, for greater awareness and understanding of who and what we are, and to have answers to our heart's deepest questions. We thank you, Lord God. We thank you all. With tremendous gratitude, respect, and love, we thank you, we thank you, we thank you. In full faith, so be it. Thank you. All right. Welcome, everyone, to another Transformation Q&A Thursday. We have our questions off to the side over here. Thank you for those of you who submitted, and for those of you who did not, I'm going to make you feel guilty until you eventually give in and just, you're like, I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. So if you have any questions, right, I always like to give the people who are on the first opportunity to ask questions if it's not already on here, which it is for some of you. But also, if you have a question, again, the questions we talk about, we do our best to answer, give understanding on our energy healing, meditation, and practical spirituality. Is there a particular topic or just, look at that. It's almost like I was cognizing that, right? So energy healing, so anything related to the aura or auras, anything related to the chakras, right? Anything related to subconscious mind, things related to the soul. Meditation, how does one improve their meditation over time? And, there's only so much that we can talk about that in a semi-public forum or semi-private forum. And then practical spirituality, which this is the basis. One of my mentors said many, many years ago that my specialization is practical spirituality. I love getting those big, thick, meaty books, those big, thick, meaty spiritual books, or maybe vegan spiritual books, and reading them cover to cover, because it stimulates the forehead chakra and the crown chakra. So when you're reading about very, very high level spiritual concepts, the forehead becomes very activated and the crown chakra becomes very activated. But you always have to ask yourself the question, how can I apply this into my day-to-day life? Which that's a big thing of what I want to separate what we do within this inner transformation membership group, as opposed to what other spiritual groups are doing. Because it's great to know about past lives. It's great to know about yugas. It's great to know about very, very high level things, very abstract things. But we have to go, how can I apply this today to improve my life? Not next lifetime, but today, right? So going once, going twice. Okay, here we go. So questions. Indiana says, I heard a lot about that special hour from 3 3 to 5 a.m., is that a good time to manifest? Excellent question. Very, very good. In fact, it is the worst time to manifest. So the time, we call it the time of the yogis. So the time is actually 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning. 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning. That is known as the sattvic time of the day. SATT. Some schools spell it differently. SATIC or SATTIC. So sometimes one T, sometimes two T's, depending upon the school. But the sattvic time of the day is when you should, right? If you're like, Christian, I'm all in, I really want to rapidly evolve, when would be the best time to meditate? Between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. is the best time to meditate, because it's the sattvic time of the day. It is when things in the physical plane are the most still. So when the physical plane is still and not stimulated with which is what called rajasic energy, you're able to be still, to be still, to be still, and to go high. But if you're being stimulated, it's kind of like you were sitting down to meditate and I was rocking you, right? That's what is happening during other times of the day. There's stimulation from the animals, from the trees, different kingdoms, people, careers, jobs, right? There's stimulation in the environment, which is keeping you what? Anchored to the physical world, right? But the sattvic time of the day between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., it's still, it's the most still time of the day. So Master Choa would always do his spiritual practice during that time of the day. Master Choa's spiritual practice was approximately 4 hours long. 4 hours long. But that 4 hours of spiritual practice at his level was able to sustain him with very little sleep, 13 different businesses, and hundreds of thousands of students in every time zone imaginable around the world, needing guidance, needing healing, needing mentorship. So that 4 hours, you go, wow, that's a long time to invest into your spiritual practice. But the amount of energy, intuition that's generated during that time made him a grand master of energy, right? So never think that anything you do in your spiritual practice is wasted. Every millisecond of effort dedicated to your spiritual growth and development, dedicated to the virtues, is permanent, because it doesn't go with your physical body, it doesn't go with your emotional body, and it doesn't go with your mental body. It goes with the soul. So all the beautiful things that you do day in and day out goes with the soul. So when you reincarnate, and I know Christian practical spirituality, it's practical from day to day, because as you keep evolving and being a good person every day gets better and better. But for those people who like the bigger picture, you're planting the seeds for your future incarnations. So if you're a good person now and become a better person monthly, yearly, per decade, you're sowing the seeds for you to be entitled to be born into a great, great family with a lot of benefit and resources. Why are you born into that family with benefits and resources? So you can manifest goodwill in the world, right? Okay. So that's the best time to meditate, between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. Now, can everyone do that? No. Does that mean if you do meditate at other times of the day that you are going to not get benefit? Of course not. But you're asking what's optimal. That's the optimal time to meditate, between 2 and between 2 and 6 a.m. So Indiana's question, best time to manifest, between 10 and 2. That's called the pitta or rajasic time of the day. I'm using Ayurvedic terms. Ayurveda means science of life, from India. It's a 5,000-year-old school of health and well-being. Great, 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 great spiritual teachings, but very difficult to follow every day. You have to literally, like, if you're going to be a true Ayurvedic practitioner, because that's where I started my spiritual path on, was Ayurveda. If you're going to be a true Ayurvedic practitioner, as it's taught, you have to renounce most everything in your life. You have to, that's a path that you have to follow. It's like saying, I'm going to be a part-time priest. or I'm going to be a part-time monk. It doesn't work that way. So if you're going to be a full Ayurvedic practitioner, you're all in. Like this, this is your life. Everything else is secondary to that. So there are a lot of beautiful tools and teachings within Ayurveda, but in our modern day world, it has to be diluted so people can practice it on a regular basis. Does that make sense? So the best time to manifest is between 10 and 2 a.m. Or I'm sorry, between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Does anyone have an idea why? Sun's the highest, most amount of solar energy, most amount of energy to use to materialize. It's the time of metabolization as well. So it's the best time to eat your biggest meal of the day because your body, it's called the Agni or digestive fires, is the highest during that time of the day. Great question. Chrissy says that makes sense now. I was reading this pranic psychotherapy book and I noticed that and I wondered what. It's out of context. I don't know what I was talking about earlier. So Beth says facing a certain direction during meditation, trainings, exercise, etc. Which way to face? What is the benefit? And what happens if you don't face that direction or face a wrong direction? Excellent question. Now, this question is answered in great detail in Pranic Feng Shui. I'm not authorized to teach that class, but I am authorized to share some of it to answer your question. Okay. So if you're doing studying, right? If you're doing studying or you're working on your business, you face north. Okay. You face north. So I'm facing north right now. Okay. If you're doing creative pursuits, right? You're creating a new program for software, you're a sculptor, you're an artist who's painting, you're writing songs, you're doing something that requires creativity, you face east. If you're meditating, you face east. Because every direction, so how many directions do we have, guys? How many directions? 8. We have 8 directions. Okay. Each of those directions have certain energies that come through, that pass through the individual, right? That they can utilize within their system. It doesn't matter where you live, how far or close you are to the equator. None of that. It has nothing to do with that, which that's why a lot of feng shui principles get distorted because they don't understand. In my experience, pranic feng shui, which is developed by Grandmaster Cho Koksui, is the only school of pranic of feng shui in the world that is clairvoyantly validated. Meaning, clairvoyants look at the different directions: north, northeast, east, southeast, south, and look at all the 8 directions to see the energy of what's coming from that direction. And then we harness that energy for certain purposes. It's the only school in the world that I know of that has clairvoyantly validated the directions. Also, a lot of things in feng shui in general, because I used to, when I was growing up, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, I would read feng shui books and they would get very detailed about insignificant things. You ever hear that? Like people focus on the minutia, they don't focus on the main thing. So to give a little bit more meat to Beth's question, the most important thing connected to feng shui for your office, for your home, is the main entrance, period. That's it. Main entrance. And you say, well, what does the main entrance mean? It means the main entrance where people go in and out of. So you go, Christian, I use my garage to go into my house. I don't use my front door. Well, then your garage is your main entrance. Does that make sense? Christian, I don't use the front door. I use the back door. Okay, then that's your main entrance. and knowing what direction you come when you come out of the entrance, knowing where you're facing determines what energy is coming in. Okay. And I'll leave it with this. We can share this. Ideally, there are exceptions, right? That's why I'm not going to go into the finer nuance point. Ideally, north, northeast, and east. Those are the three major directions that you want. So when you come out of the main entrance, your garage, your house, your apartment, by the way, is it your apartment building, main entrance, or is it the apartment door? It's the main entrance of the apartment. It's not your door. It's the main entrance. Why? Because that's the main energy that everyone's going in and out of, not just your teeny tiny door. Okay. So, but there are other factors, right? So that goes into the whole class, which I'm not authorized to teach. Okay. So north, northeast, or east for your main entrance. So when you step out of your main entrance, you're looking one of those three directions. But there are exceptions to that rule. Primarily, it depends on the person's profession. Okay, let's see here. Chrissy says, back to your forehead and crown being activated. Gotcha. What were we covering? I was in the energy, and now I'm not in the energy of that question. How many apartments did you look at before you chose when you moved? Dozens. There are reasons I have lived in good feng shui and seen the benefits of it. I've lived in bad feng shui and seen the disadvantages of it. It is noticeable. And it's not one of these like well, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I didn't even know about the principles, right? I lived in these places, experienced what happened, then I moved to other places, experienced with them what happened, took the class, right? Then I was able to reverse engineer and look at those scenarios, and I was like blown away. And then moving forward from the information I got in the class, I applied it into my life, and I noticed it time and time and time again. So do you realize how much that cuts out inventory? Think about that. I can only live in certain places, and that's just the main entrance. You guys have to understand, I look for many other factors. That's why 90% of the inventory I look at doesn't qualify for my work. That's a big deal. So that's why it's very difficult for me to find places to live in. It's not because I'm picky because of aesthetics per se. I'm picky because of the energetic factors. By the way, I'll give you a funny story about feng shui, because feng shui is a fascinating class. Pranic feng shui, it's super throat chakra, super, super detailed. Really, really good class. But there was a gentleman who is a successful entrepreneur, and he consulted with Master Choa. And he says, Master, we have an offering. Our lease is coming up in our building, and we can renew our lease, or we can go to this other building that is less, that has better terms and less rent, right? And Master says, what's the main entrance? What's the direction? And he goes, oh, Master, it's this. He goes, don't do it, right? So what do you think is going to happen to the disciple that goes to the teacher, gets the simple instruction, and doesn't follow the instruction? What do you think is going to happen to the disciple? Probably not something good, right? So within, I believe it was a 3-month period, within a 3-month period of the person moving for the better terms, right? Better terms, lower rent, but bad feng shui, their business dropped by over 30% because they didn't follow simple instructions, right? Didn't follow simple instructions. But that's a fascinating class. You will learn things in that class you'll never read about. Most of the inner teachings in pranic healing are only in the class. It's called inner transmission. Teaching, verbal teaching. which is done in the Tibetan tradition. Okay, so I've looked at most places that I've gone to, like most places I've lived to, I've looked online, maybe 75 places, and in person, maybe 15. So I research them online, and if they fulfill requirements, then I go to them physically, and then I whittle them down. It can take me over a month to find a place to live. It's not easy. Okay, so good. So there's some questions right there. Now we can add to our questions for tonight. So looking for clarity on gossip versus providing facts. Looking for clarity on gossip versus providing facts. Um, I'll answer this one after this one, Beth. Thank you. So gossip, very important, very important, very important. We covered this a teeny tiny bit. Gossip is one of the worst ways. Gossip generates some of the worst relationship karma because you are distorting the perception of a person to many, many other people. So it's a compounding effect. So you talk badly about this person to not just one person, but two people, and then those two people talk to four people, six people, 12 people, etc. Right? So it's compounding. So the karma that comes back to you is in the form of negative relationship karma. It is not good. Do not gossip about people. Now, what if you have something to talk about productively? You have to get the person's buy-in. Always. We've talked about this before when it comes to active listening, acknowledging and validating, asking qualifying questions. You have to find out if the person is open and receptive to the feedback that you're giving them. So gossiping is when you're talking negatively about a person to other people, not seeking to understand, not seeking to provide a solution, not seeking to, hey, other person, how can we help our friend? Right? It's just, would you believe what so and so did? Would you believe what so and so who so and so is sleeping with? Would you believe what happened to their business? Would you, right? That's gossip. That's dropping the energy of another person through the perception of many other people, which is coming back to you in the form of negative relationship karma. Okay. Now, if you're talking to the other person saying, how can we help Jane or John? What can we do? That's not gossip, right? You're trying to uplift that person and build that person up. Now, let's say you're talking to the person directly. You have to find out, are they open and receptive to the feedback? Hey, if I knew something that could save you time, money, and energy, would you be interested? If I knew something that I see that could cause you pain, sorrow, and suffering in the future, would you be open to hearing about it? If they're open, they open the door energetically and psychologically for you to give them feedback. By the way, if you ever do that to me, you will get it. I will penetrate you very deeply energetically if you give me permission. If you don't give me permission, guess what? I won't say anything. Why do you think I charge so much for healings? So it makes somebody go, you know what? I paid this guy a lot of money. I'm all in. And it works. And then people transform. Okay. So you have to get somebody's buy-in first. And then once you get their buy-in, once you get their permission, you create a bridge of communication from where you are and helping them go from where they are to where you are. Hopefully it's the more accurate viewpoint. And then you give them your perception. And the Landmark Forum, which is a personal development program that changed its name. It used to be called EST in the 70s and 80s, and then in 1991 it turned into the Landmark Education Forum, and then they just call it the Forum. And they say, hold on, getting back on my train of thought. Now I'm thinking like 5 different things that they talked about. Hold on. So we're talking about facts. You get when you share something with another person, you use I statements, right? They were pretty popular with that. You use I statements. So you don't say, you know, Jane, John, you're a screw up and this is why. You got their permission to share something with them, and then you say, from my viewpoint, what I've seen is dot, dot, dot. What I've seen is it looks like you're cheating on your wife. What I've seen is it looks like you're embezzling money from your employer. What I've seen is, right, my perception. So you're making an I statement. You're going, my perception is this, but I'm willing to have my perception altered, changed, modified, brought to a higher level of truth because I could be wrong. But as soon as you accuse somebody, what happens? They energetically get defensive and psychologically become defensive. So when you accuse people of something, a couple things happen. Number one, the solar plexus becomes activated, the heart becomes smaller, and their energy body hardens. Their energy body hardens because they feel they're being attacked. So the energy body hardens. So also for us healers in this group, when you heal people, if you're too willful, right? You're too willful. It's more emotional will, but it can also be higher will. If you're too willful when you're healing somebody's chakras, the chakras becomes tight and it won't let go of the energy. So it can actually be counterproductive to heal somebody with too much will. It's more effective to heal somebody with love. So you've ever heard that kill them with kindness? Kind of what it means is you give a person so much love, so much pink energy, so much sweetness, kindness from the heart that it permeates and penetrates them. And they're like, ah, I don't care what you're saying to me right now. I just feel so good. What did you want to tell me? What did you want to, right? They're open and receptive. But if you're like, and I'm super guilty of this, I've had to learn this because I'm by nature a willful person. Years ago, by nature, I was emotionally willful, which got me into a lot of trouble. As I've matured and grown as a healer and as a person, I'm more higher will, mentally willful with people. So I've had to activate my heart, right? So when I communicate, I want the other person to be receptive. So another way to get a person receptive, remember we asked the question, are you open and receptive to feedback? Then you make I statements. Number three, when you communicate, you talk from the heart. So when you're focusing on your heart, when you're talking, your words are coated with pink energy. So when it hits the person's aura, it absorbs versus talking from here, which I've done to you guys in the group, the meditation group a few months ago, and you didn't like it. When you talk from here, it's sharp, it's penetrating because this is designed to do this. It's designed to divide. It's designed to cut. It's like the hacksaw, the machete. That's what the ajna is designed to do. People don't like that. People don't like when you treat them like an object. Okay. You've heard of task management, ajna and throat. So when you look at a person and you treat them like a task, they feel it and they shut down because they feel like they're being attacked. Okay. So I hope that helps. It's an excellent question. I hope that helps. Of gossiping is when you have negative emotion about another person and it's not about the benefit of the other person. You're just talking smack about them versus are you open and receptive if I had some information that could help you? Yes. From what I see, blah, blah, blah. And you say it with the heart, from the heart. And the person will be, I mean, in all actuality, if they're reasonable, right? If they're reasonable, they'll be like, hey, thank you for the feedback. I appreciate that. If they're not reasonable, then they're not going to take it, right? They're not receptive. That's okay. Basically, from Master Choa's viewpoint, your words are designed to bless, to heal, and to prosper. So the words that come out of your mouth are to bless, heal, and prosper. If your words are not blessing and healing and prospering yourself and other people, be quiet, which goes back to what? The Sphinx. Remain silent. The masters know a tremendous amount of wisdom, but they don't They don't share it because they're having to remain silent for many reasons. Okay. So Beth asked the question, please explain benefits of superbrain yoga, prosperity squats, it's mental physics. Metaphysics would be beyond the physical, right? Breathing exercise to better. How often should we do them? Daily, weekly? Should you do them all? That's 12 questions in one paragraph. Okay. So benefits of superbrain yoga, which is in your program for all of you that signed up for the membership, right? Superbrain yoga calms your emotions, stimulates both hemispheres of the brain. If you're a child doing it, you'll be a genius in your late teens. So if you're 4, 5, and 6 years old doing it regularly, you'll be a genius in your teens. If you do it as an adult for many years, it'll stave off Alzheimer's, because we have Alzheimer's because the sex chakra is depleted and dirty and the brain is depleted of energy, which we get from the sex. So your sex chakra feeds your brain. Your sex chakra feeds your brain, energetically speaking. Okay. So you do 7, 14, or 21 repetitions per day. If you're studying for an exam and you need more energy, then you do, say, 7, and then later in the day, you do another 7, right? So you're giving yourself more energy throughout the day, but don't go over 21 repetitions. Mental physics, breathing exercises is extremely, extremely, extremely powerful. It's recommended to do 7 repetitions of the first exercise, where you inhale, contract every muscle, hold, and then exhale. You do that 7 times. And then all the other exercises, you do 3 repetitions in 3 sets. The goal, this is important, which wasn't covered in the program that I put together for you guys. You do the slower. Oh, I froze. Let me know if I'm back. Good? Okay. The slower you go, the more powerful it is for mental physics. The slower you go, the more powerful it is. So I learned from Master Ko, if you do the full practice of mental physics, if you do it normally, 8 minutes. Normally. If you do the full practice where you go as slow as you humanly can go, 45 minutes. You have so much energy, you will go out of your mind. I don't recommend that to most people. If you heal lots and lots of people, then yes. But in general, 8 minutes is fine. And then Tibetan rites. So mental physics, by the way, generates sex energy, generates a lot of energy, but it distributes the energy evenly throughout the upper, middle, and lower aura. The Tibetan rites, considered the secret to the fountain of youth, highly stimulates the sex, highly stimulates the throat. So rather than being it evenly distributed, like in mental physics, it's overly activating the throat and the sex. So when people have longevity and youthfulness, it's sex and throat primarily. So when you look at children and they have these big, plump, cute little faces, that's sex energy. As we age, right? As we age and we get the crow's feet, right? It's because sex energy is becoming depleted. What replenishes sex energy? Tibetans. So what's the question? We start off with 3 repetitions of the 5 Tibetan rites, 3 repetitions. So there's 5, so 3, so that's 15. You work up to 21. So 21 for the first one, second, third, fourth, and fifth. If you meditate right before Tibetans, you don't do the spinning. So you leave out the first one. That's only if you don't meditate, you do all 5. If you meditate, you do only 4. The purpose of spinning is to bring down divine energy. If you've just meditated, hello, you already brought down the divine energy. Make sense? When do you do them? With mental physics and Tibetans, you can alternate. Monday, mental physics, Tuesday, Tibetans, Wednesday, mental physics, Thursday, Tibetans, right? That's how you can mix it up. You can alternate them. It's perfectly okay. You can do them both in the same day too. It's a lot of energy. It's usually too much for most people, but you can do both in the same day. Again, mental physics and Tibetan rites is not about losing weight. People have a misunderstanding like, oh, I'm just going to use this as my exercise or my cardio. It's not that. It's designed to highly activate and energize your chakras. So they're spinning super fast. You're literally forcing them to spin super fast. Okay. But they're very, very powerful. Okay. We answered all those questions. Next question. That's funny. Do you have a review video for mental physics? Oh, so it's almost like it's telepathic here. I do. So in your program on total health through energy healing, which is part of your membership, it's on there. Master Code does one too in YouTube, or you could go to Master Codes. Okay. So you type in mental, not meta, but mental physics. Partly why it's called mental physics is because it can be done mentally if your mind is clear enough and your power and your will is strong enough. But that's a conversation for another day. Okay. Next question. What determines how quickly and effectively something goes into your subconscious mind? That's a big one. What determines how quickly and effectively something goes into your subconscious mind? A big one would be receptivity. So we're typically most receptive in the morning, right before we wake up, right when we're waking up, and right before we go to bed. So anytime you hear affirmations or subliminal programming, the best time to listen to it is right before you wake up. So you're kind of like stirring in bed. Maybe you have an alarm that goes off and you're like not fully awake. You could start listening to subliminal recordings and affirmations right before you go to bed. You can be listening to affirmations, and it has to be audible. Back in the day, they used to think subliminal programming could be on almost no volume. You have to actually hear it. Your brain has to register what's being said. So it has to be audible. It can't be something playing in the background, like far away. So that's one way of being receptive. Another way of being receptive is saying, I, the soul, am super conductive and super receptive to this message, right? I, the soul, am super conductive, super receptive to this message. It depends on how big the old thought forms are compared to how big the new thought forms are. So, for instance, if you have an addiction or phobia, right, it's already at the point of being very big because it's an addiction. It's already affecting you negatively, right? So it's already very, very big and it's spilling from your subconscious into the conscious day-to-day life. So healing is going to be required to whittle the big thought form and big energy down and then replacing it. So this is what Kriya Shakti is. Kriya Shakti is the process of creating powerful thought forms, which is a class taught by Grandmaster Choa Kok Sui. Let's see, what determines how quickly and effectively something goes into your subconscious mind? Certainty is another factor. So if you have doubt, which is actually a thought form in and of itself, like, this probably isn't going to work. This probably isn't going to work. This probably isn't going to work. You're right. But if you have certainty, you have humility, you have reverence, I'm so grateful this is transforming my life. I'm so grateful that I'm at my ideal weight. I'm so grateful that I have a tremendous amount of prosperity, abundance, and success. I'm so grateful that I am attractive to the opposite sex. I'm so grateful that I am a loyal partner. I'm so grateful that my physical body is healthy, fit, and strong, right? Whatever it is. So that's a big part of it. And then repetition, repetition, repetition. This is the one that people miss. So 90 days, 3 months, 3 months. So if you're starting something, an affirmation program, 3 times a day for 90 days. No expectations prior to that. That's the problem that people get into. I did this haphazardly for 7.5 days and it didn't work. Well, throw that out. If you do something religiously 3 times a day for 90 days, there's a reason for 90 days. It's not arbitrary. This is directly from Master Choa. For 90 days, it will transform you. Also, don't miss a day. The effect is greatly reduced. So that's why you're practicing which virtue, everyone? Constancy of aim and effort and non-laziness. Getting after it, making it happen. Okay? Next question. So I hope that helps. What is your typical routine in staying energetically clean while traveling to and from airports, hotels, public transportation? Good question. There's a lot that we could cover with this one. It would take up the rest of the time. But in essence, you can carry with you a silk seat cover. So when you sit down on a bus, on an airplane, on a hotel chair, your perineum is protected because the perineum absorbs energy. It absorbs energy. So, by the way, if you're doing Kegels, for the women that want to have a good time with their partner, if you're doing Kegels, you're sucking up whatever's on that seat. Okay. So, having a silk shawl, or not a shawl, but having a silk seat cover and sitting on that in public settings is important. You can also have one that covers the back, right? So you can put it over the chair. So when you lean back, it's also protecting the back energy channel. Another thing you can do is carry around with you essentials, not essential oil, but healing spray that can have essential oil in it. So water, 70% isopropyl alcohol, and then maybe 7 drops of lavender oil. And if you can consecrate it, even better. And so you spray your seats and you spray your hands. Another thing you can do is as you're traveling, which is I'm a big fan of, taking lavender and putting it on the solar plexus, front solar plexus, back solar plexus, front spleen, back spleen, sex chakra. Okay. I love the smell of lang lang, which is for emotional healing. So I take lang lang and put it under my nose. So as I'm traveling, I smell lang lang, which keeps my emotional state high. And it has a certain kind of energy that is cleansing. Okay. Another cool thing I learned from Master Co, when you go to a hotel room, you can take essential oils and drop the essential oils on the AC unit or the heating unit, and it will radiate the smell throughout the whole space. So you can do that with a citrus, which has energizing quality, stimulating quality, or you can do it with lavender or lang lang, which has emotional healing. Okay. What else can you do traveling? Cutting cords. Cutting cords. So for us healers in the group, imagine your hand is a luminous white blade like a knife, and you just cut in the front. You cut in the front lower left rib, which is where your spleen is, which when we travel, that's what's getting most taxed is the spleen. Then you imagine yourself in front of you and you cut from the back. So you cut in the front, then the front spleen, then your back side, you cut from the back, and then the back spleen. And you can do that throughout your traveling because every time somebody looks at you, they connect. The intensity depends on how long they're looking and what their emotional state is. So if they're looking at you and they're in a good emotional state and they're thinking good thoughts and feelings about you, there's going to be good energy going to you. But if they're looking at you, criticizing you, judging you for what you're wearing, for how you look, for your height, your weight, whatever, that's dropping your energy, right? So you want to keep cutting. Also for women, there's a lot of cords to the nipple chakras. Women connect to other women's breasts, men connect to women's breasts. So cutting the cords of the nipples as well. What else can you do? And then take a salt bath at the end of your travels. And you guys all know the salt bath, right? You fill it up, you have your 2 pounds of salt, 15 drops of lavender oil, dump it into the warm water, mix everything up, submerge the body for 20 minutes, rinse off, you're good to go. You can also do pranayamas when you're traveling. Do not do pranayamas in a dirty environment. So if you're on a plane, don't do pranayama. If you're on a bus, don't do pranayama. If you're in a dirty environment, don't do pranayamas. You want to be outside. If you're traveling, you want to be outside when you do pranayamas. And that will expand your energy and clean out some of the congestion. So a pranayama would be 7171 breathing, which we talked about before, 6363 breathing, which we've talked about before. Everyone who's part of this membership site knows those breathings. What are your daily, weekly energetic routines while at home? A lot of what I shared. And I also, my practice is very long. My practice is usually 2.5 to 3 hours per day. So I'm always cleaning myself constantly. So it's not like I go a week and it's like, oh my, I haven't cleaned my solar plexus. It's like all day long, right? Because the cleaner, oh no, I froze. Let me know if I'm not frozen. Good? Unfrozen? Perfect. Okay. So the question was, what is my daily, weekly routine? It's everything that I talked to you guys about, but I'm keeping myself clean all the time because of the work that I do. The cleaner an energy body is, the faster it can transform another person and the deeper it can penetrate and the less radical reaction the person has. So if my energy body is very gross and very dense and I do healing on somebody, the likelihood of them having a radical reaction is greater. But if my energy body is smooth, clean, and refined, it penetrates the person's energy body almost under their radar, and the likelihood of a radical reaction is reduced considerably. That's why vegetarians work on vegetarians, meat eaters work on meat eaters, smokers work on smokers, and smokers are taught not to energize because the energy coming out is through the filter of smoking. So you can actually make somebody's energy body dirtier if they're not a smoker. Make sense? Next question. What has been your most difficult healing case scenario? How did you proceed and what was the outcome? That's a tough question. I've done thousands of healings. I've worked on very difficult psychological cases, very difficult physical cases, and had pretty good success with most of them. What has been my most difficult? You know what it is? Two things. These are the most difficult. It might surprise you. These are the most difficult. People that are know-it-alls, extremely difficult to heal. And here's the thing, it's I'm not asking the person to throw out their mental faculties or their discerning faculties. It's never about that. It's about just follow the simple instructions and you'll get the result. But people who are very intelligent, quote unquote, and who have studied a lot think they know better. But if they knew better, they wouldn't have the condition they have. Hello. So just recently, I had somebody who's been on the spiritual path doing spiritual work for 42 years, studied pranic healing, studied arhatic yoga many years ago, even before I got involved in pranic healing and arhatic yoga, like old school. And I was like, wow, new Master Choa and everything. And so I gave him a very simple, a what? Very simple homework assignment. He did it for 2 days, quit, and told me why it doesn't work. And I said, what was the homework assignment? Was it for 2 days or was it for longer? So I knew negative pride was kicking in. I've been doing this for 42 years, blah, 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 right? So I clearly, calmly, humbly explained to him where he was wrong because he hired me. He gave me permission to tell him why he's wrong. And guess what? He got the realization and he recommitted to doing the homework. And guess what? I know this is going to blow everyone's mind, but it's getting the results that we promised. So negative pride, people that are know-it-alls are extremely difficult to heal. They typically don't come back. Therefore, they can't get healed. Hello. I've had several clients who have come to me at a very low point in their life. They get healing. Life improves tremendously. And then they go, I don't need this anymore. Literally, they'll literally be like, I don't need this anymore. Guess what happens? They go back to their old ways. A year and a half, 2 years goes by. They hit rock bottom again. And guess who they come back to? Now they're humble. Now they're open and receptive. We work together. They produce a result. Okay. So the other one, right? I said negative pride, very difficult to heal. Not impossible, but very difficult to heal because it requires the person to be humble and to follow simple instructions, even during the healing. And then number two are people that are delusional, which is also connected to negative pride. So I've had people that come to me that say they're being stalked by the government, that they have alien chips in their body, that they're being psychically attacked by black magicians. Some of those have actually been accurate, interestingly enough, but they're so delusional because of cracks and holes in the webbing, infestation of entity and elementals, that the entities and elementals have to be dealt with first and removed before we can even work on, quote unquote, the person. So I've had many of those, not lately, not for the past few years, but years earlier, I had many cases of that. Those people are very difficult because you're like, they're delusional about their situation. You're like, how do I explain this to this person? How can I help them have understanding? It's not an alien that's visiting you in the middle of the night and doing what it's not that. That's not what's happening. So, but they're so convinced that that's what's happening. It's very difficult to heal that. So physical stuff is super, I don't want to say super easy to heal, but if somebody has lower back pain, okay, great. 20 minutes later, how is it? It feels great. Okay, move on with your day. But if they're like, show me how this whole healing thing works. Do you know I know 12 different healing modalities? As soon as I hear that, I just go, how much are they paying me for my time? Because I want to help everybody, right? I want everyone to transform and to move their lives forward. But I understand the uphill battle that that person's going to have, and most likely they're not willing to take it, right? So those are the very difficult cases. People with lots of negative pride and people that are delusional. which is connected to negative pride. Let's see. What would one do? Next question. What should one do during the most difficult time of one's life? Invoke. We covered this in one of the programs. Invocation. Lord God, please help me. Master Choa, please help me. Lord Ganesh, Archangel Michael, invoke, ask for help. Why is that important? Because when you feel that you are hopeless, you're not connected. People who are suicidal are not connected, and the soul energy is not hitting the lower chakras. The soul energy is being withdrawn from the lower chakras. That's why they're feeling hopelessness and they're leaving the body. But if they invoke and they bring down a tremendous amount of energy, it stimulates and activates all the chakras and they come alive, right? If you scan somebody's basic chakra who's suicidal, it's very teeny tiny and it doesn't have a lot of energy. It's super small because they're not anchored to the earth. They're going up. They don't want to be here anymore, right? Master Choa says the worst thing a soul can do is commit suicide. And it takes lifetimes to work out that karma. So under no circumstances is one to commit suicide, even if one is under tremendous distress, trauma, or torture. You're neutralizing karma. Don't generate new negative karma. I have a very, very interesting story. I don't want to share it right now for time's sake, but I have a very interesting story. I have many stories of suicide, several that have been saved, one that was not. This was not part of my knowledge, this particular person, but it was a close family friend, and it was tragic. And my mentor was able to connect to this person in the inner world and talk with the healing minister that was healing that person. So she was able to talk to the being that was healing her, and this being shared all the details. So my mentor knew nothing about this person other than her name. And then she relayed all this information back to me that I verified with the other family member. And it turned out to be all accurate, super detailed stuff. So the biggest lesson from the person who committed suicide that was conveyed to my mentor, my teacher, my pranic healing teacher, was the regret of doing it. Okay. So the pain is not on that level anymore, right? It's not the same kind of pain, but when the body reincarnates, it's going to be a lot of pain. So under no circumstances is one to commit suicide. So also, what should one do the most difficult time of one's life? Key point in this. When you say most difficult, you just created a mountain out of a molehill. That's another factor. Your viewpoint it determines how you respond. So if you see it as a big monster that's scary, then you're going to run. But if you go, I got this, I can handle this, with God, all things are possible, then you can handle it. Okay. Next question. Does practicing martial arts help build chi, life force, and grow spiritually? Not necessarily. When you fight, you're using up energy, right? Also, when you fight competitively or aggressively, you're generating injurious karma. So if you're fighting for fun or for self-defense, good. If you're fighting to be competitive or you're fighting to take advantage of other people, you're generating injurious karma that will come back to you in the form of physical injury. Um, there are practices within Qigong, Tai Chi, different martial arts schools, mostly based on the internal school of Qigong, where you're generating Qi within your body and you're storing it and then you're using it. But if you're fighting, the Qi is being used up. Does that make sense? So it's better just to do your Tibetans and not fight people. It's better to do your mental physics and not fight people. It's better to do higher hatha yoga practices and not fight people. There was a funny story of a gentleman. My mentor was actually at this event when it happened, and he witnessed it. And there was a martial artist who knew that Master Cho was a martial artist, because Master Cho was a martial artist for many, many years. And that's why he is an expert in sharing about these teachings. And this guy kept goading Master Choa to attack him, to use chi, right? Which is, I don't know what people, again, pride. By the way, martial arts as a whole, martial arts, lots of negative pride. It's built into the schools themselves. Lots of negative pride. Really interesting study. So this guy kept goading Master Choa to, hey, come on, let's do a chi demonstration, chi demonstration, chi demonstration, right? He wanted to goad Master Choa into fighting him. So they were on break. They all gathered outside in the lobby, and this guy kept coming up to Master, and so Master tapping in, looking, probably saying, okay, this student needs to learn a lesson. It's part of his karma, blah, 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 because he kept saying, no, 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 no. And then he says, okay. So they were about maybe 6 or 7 feet away from each other. And he says, okay, are you ready? And the guy's like, I'm ready. Right. He was like a big martial arts. He goes, I'm ready. So Master goes like this. And my mentor was showing the whole thing to me. It was really funny. So he goes, Master Choa just went like this. He moved his hip. He just went like that. Just moved his hip. And the guy flew 15 feet into the air. What I know about energy in that part is Master expanded his aura temporarily. He just went like that. Right? See, you guys, even me doing that to you, your auras are changing. So think about the teacher's aura, how dense it is. So he just did that, and the guy's face went pale white. And he was that like didn't say another word, no more provoking, nothing. Right? Because the student wasn't being humble, wasn't being reverent, wasn't being respectful to the teacher. So, okay, you want to do a chi demonstration? Here's your chi demonstration. Beth says, I know several teenagers, friends of my kids over the years who have committed suicide. One of my son's classmates just did over the holidays. Very sad. Yes, suicides are at an all-time high. I think it's like 65% increase from last year. Big, big deal. Because there's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of loneliness. We are social creatures. COVID has prevented that. Okay. Next question. Has anyone experienced disconnection from their body while meditation? It feels like I am in a bubble and lasts for about 10 minutes after meditation. The awareness of outside world is still sharp. However, response is visibly slow. Any recommendations on what to do with it? So the person's going into their astral body. That's all. They're going into the astral body and witnessing themselves at a distance physically. People become very fascinated with astral travel, astral projection in different cities and yogic powers. We talked about this before. It gets you off of your path. What's the path? Oneness with God, oneness with all. Everything else is secondary or tertiary. So don't meditate, right, to this person. Don't meditate with the expectation of, I want to leave my body again. With proper practice, you can leave your body at will. So don't get mesmerized by abilities. It gets you off of your path. It's not necessary. Or as Master would say, just enjoy the experience. Don't seek the experience, right? And then the last question is, hi, everyone. A quick question. If anyone has ever experienced the same, I've been meditating daily now for about 3 months. Congratulations. I've started to recently notice that whenever I listen to classical music, I want to listen to it even more carefully than I used to. The effect which it produces on me is much more powerful than it used to be. Has anyone ever noticed the same? Just curious. As Master Choa says, who you meditate on and what you meditate on, you become. So the original composers of classical music, very, very developed. In Ayurveda, which we talked about earlier, there's a portion called Samaveda, or Samaveda, which means the knowledge of music, which the beings of music are some of the most powerful, influential beings on the planet because music is universal. So if you meditate on classical music, you're connecting to that kind of energy and those kinds of people. Refinement, right? Some of the most intelligent, refined people I know are very much into classical music. Now, contrast that with, say, death metal or hardcore rap. Different vibration, true or not true? Shooting people, killing people, all about the Benjamins, blah, 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 blah. Does that mean these people are undeveloped? Not necessarily. But the energy is much lower, denser, stimulates the lower chakras. Classical music stimulates the heart upwards. Rap music and heavy metal stimulates the solar plexus on down. The solar plexus, the sex, the basic. So it's a degree of refinement. So if this person's been meditating for 3 months, their energy body is becoming more refined. So they're becoming more aware of the energies connected. It's like if you have numb or dull taste buds, like I used to, you could eat something very sweet. You don't even notice it. You're like, yeah, whatever, gobble, 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 right? Christian, why are you sounding like a turkey? Or as your taste buds become more refined and you eat that same sweet thing, it really hits you because you're practicing refinement of the senses. So this person is refining their senses through their meditation practice. And that was our last question. Yay! And we finished a little bit later than usual, but not too shabby. Did you guys get value out of this? Yeah, good. Now remember, all the notes that you took, keep asking yourself the question, how can I practically apply this to my life? So a good question, a good example was like, I travel, I go places. I should be cutting cords more often. I should be taking a salt bath after traveling all day. I could put lavender on my front solar plexus, back solar plexus, my sex. I didn't even think about that. Okay. Right? So practically using the information. Which way do I face when I work? Which way do I face when I'm studying, when I'm doing a creative project, when I'm meditating? Interesting. Which way do I sleep? When I lay down on my bed, what direction is my head pointing? I never thought about that. Practical spirituality. All right. I'm going to have to rearrange my office. Yeah, it's totally worth it. If you're sensitive, you'll notice it almost immediately, almost. Typically within 1 day. North for the head, correct. So we don't say when you're sleeping, your head's facing north. We say your head is pointing north. Okay? But that depends. It's not north in all cases. This is where nuance comes in. This is where understanding comes in. In pranic healing, we're not really big on do it because I said so or do it and just take my word for it. We always want to have understanding as to why we do or don't do something. And then with understanding, you can apply it appropriately in your life as your life changes and your needs change. There's not a one size fits all of do this because we said so and that's it, end of story. You know what that's called? Dogma. Dogma is unchanging. Truth is dynamic, right? Truth is dynamic. It changes all the time and it changes dependent upon many, many factors and what your purpose is. Okay. So, shall we close? Everyone put their hands together, place them on the heart, smile at your big, beautiful heart. Be aware of your crown. Be aware of your heart and your crown together. To the Supreme God, Divine Father, Divine Mother, respected and beloved teacher, Grandmaster Choa Kok Sui, to Lord Mahaguru Jamiling, to Lord Buddha Kuan Yin, to Saraswati, to all the holy gurus, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, healing ministers, to our divine selves, our higher souls, we thank you all for your great, great blessings, for your divine light, love, and power, your help, guidance, and protection, for greater awareness and understanding of who and what we are. Thank you for allowing us to apply these teachings into our day-to-day lives to become better people and better souls and to serve more people. We thank you with tremendous gratitude, respect, and love. We thank you in full faith. So be it, and so it is. Thank you, thank you. So be it. All right, beautiful souls. Have an amazing evening. I will catch you on the Flippity McFlipperson. It'll take me a little bit to upload this to the Facebook group as well as to Thinkific, but it will be done as I sow it and will it. And any other questions, comments, concerns, let me know. And I will see you guys on Sunday for our lecture, meditation, and healing. Have a wonderful night as well, Chrissy. You're very welcome, Indiana. Thanks. I'll have more questions. I'll email you. Who said that? Yeah, Beth, bring it. Beth, can you help Indiana with that whole process? Oh God, I'm gonna ride you until you either sell your house or you put in some questions. Hopefully, the selling the house thing happens first. Okay. Love you guys very much. I too still need clarity. Don't we all, Chrissy? We're in the process. Bye bye.